Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am recording this on Sunday, December 7th in the year 2025. And this is coming from Escazú, Costa Rica, where it is dark. And it has been a very busy time. And I want to tell you that I've given a number of lectures about next year. I did my Rebellion of Fire and Air on Tuesday night, and then I also did something for Internations today, and it's all going to be a very interesting year next year. And if you would like to purchase the video recording of my lecture 2026, the Rebellion of Fire and Air, then contact me either on Instagram or through my website, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, deb@debmcbride.com, and I can send you the payment link, or you can go to my website to the goldenastrologer.com and go to Astrologer's Thoughts. And on the last blog post, you'll see that I have mentioned the two lectures that I was doing. The bottom one is the one that you want for next year. And I can assure you it's very interesting. People ask very interesting questions. We talked a lot about the fact that the first eclipse is going to be on the United States moon. So this is another hot time just right before the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So this is some big stuff. So I invite you, join me in this exploration of next year. And so you can join me for that recording, and I promise you next year will not be dull. In the meantime, this week is not dull. So the biggest day of the week, I'm going to get right into it, is Wednesday, because two things happen that day. Very important. Neptune is going direct at 7:21 a.m. Eastern Time. And it is really important to pay attention to what happens now around Neptune going direct. And this is because Neptune is at 29 degrees of the last degree, Pisces, of the last sign, Pisces, of the zodiac, right? And so it is absolutely the last moments of the last 12 years. So that's one cycle that's finishing. There's a greater 165-year cycle that's ending, which is Neptune's entire cycle through the zodiac from 0 Aries to 29 Pisces, where it is now. We weren't alive 165 years ago, unless you're some yogi on the mountain in the Himalayas and you have broken all the medical models and you've meditated your way to a life past, 165 years. If that is the case, then you, listening, have seen Neptune and Aries for a whole round before. But most of us have not seen this. So we're in for something unusual and different and new. And Neptune's starting the zodiac all over, and Saturn joining it, starting the zodiac all over. So Neptune going into the direct station of having been at 29 Pisces, where it's been 29 Pisces before last year in July, and then this year, earlier, twice this year, where it was 29 Pisces before it went into Aries, and then when it went retrograde out of Aries now, like a few months ago. And so now it's 29 Pisces until January 26th, when it goes into Aries. This station direct is important because it is headed towards Aries. We're not going back. This is it. Forward movement, marching forward. And this is the end of an enormous cycle. So I expect people to freak out. I expect the world to go mad. I expect that the world is crazy and crazier with Neptune, and then Saturn at the same degree at the end. So Saturn's going to be a little slower behind Neptune, but it doesn't matter. They are coming to the end of the zodiac. So you may ask me, why does the world go mad? Why would the world go mad? Well, in my training, we discussed the whole experience of death anxiety. And I've mentioned this many times before here. And death anxiety is something that happens when we feel the end of something coming, something big. So this is the end of a big cycle. And so on a subconscious level, we're all kind of losing our minds, but the dreams might be a little crazy. Our behaviors are not what they used to be, or we're not what we have been, and we've been in a very strong dynamic of this for a long time because of Pluto. First there was Pluto going into a new sign, and then there was Neptune, starting to get into a new sign. And then, Neptune and Saturn, and then, it's always like this. It doesn't happen with Jupiter because it's a very frequent cycle. Once a year, Jupiter goes into a new sign. Not a big deal. Certainly not with, Mars going into a new sign, or, the sun. We do that every month. But when it's something huge, and there has been a terrific amount of time, like 12 years, like 20 years, for Pluto and Neptune, and then Uranus, which is 8 years. Uranus is a little less, but still it's there because it's the end of something and the beginning of something else. So we leave behind a whole swath of time of our life. And, it's always about what is coming from the unknown. What is coming from the unknown next? And this is a big unknown. We don't know what's really coming. Yeah, I can sit here and give you some predictions and some interesting information about all of that. But there are going to be things, I'm not God, and things are still in motion. Things that are not a predictable future, that are wild cards, could still happen. Okay, that I might not put my finger on, or any other astrologer. And I want to say that, like I said, in my training, when something's ending, we get a little wonky because of the death anxiety factor, because there's a part of us that doesn't see anything beyond the life we're in, and can't imagine not being in the skin we're in, and in the life that we have, breathing in this body, the way we look in the mirror every day. And then there's a part of us that knows that eventually we're not going to be here anymore. And so coming face to face with that happens every time one of those planets that are way out from here changes signs, and now changes the end of the zodiac to something new. So it's like we've come to the edge of the cliff, and now we jump. It's like the fool in the tarot, right? We're coming to the edge of the cliff and we're starting over again. And well, what does that indicate for us? Well, there's an unknown factor here. So when there's heavy duty astrology like this, and this is, I've been with you on this podcast for a bunch of years now, and we've come to these big passages: Saturn, Pluto changing signs, now Neptune changing signs, Uranus changing signs. And so this is a very profound moment for, looking at what could potentially happen, and then how we're feeling. The thing to acknowledge is you don't feel great. You feel a little chaotic. You feel a little crazy. You feel like, what is happening in this world? I can't get a breath. I can't get a break. This is something profound, and it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge it, and it's better to acknowledge it than to ignore. I'm just fine. I'm fine. Fine. Thank you. I'm fine. You're not. You're not necessarily. You're not fine. You're feeling what everybody else is feeling, and the more other people around you are feeling it, and the more people are feeling it, it's a field of feeling, right? It's a whole field. And anytime we're in a closed group, a container, if you will, such as a yoga retreat, a meditation retreat, a class, like when I was in Michael Newton's class, no one new was allowed to come in. When we were in this 3-year class, no one was allowed to come in. Once you joined, people joined, he had a cutoff, and then people left. And he said he told us from the beginning, the group is going to get smaller and smaller, because there are going to be things that people get uncomfortable with as the group gets smaller, gets more contained. So as things in our life get more contained, and when or in our bubble of people, well, then this is something that is completely freaking us out. Now, on one level, there's security, right? There's security in the container. And then if someone leaves, oh my God, that disrupts the integrity of the group, of the container. If there's, 1,000 people in the group, like you're in an online group with a coach, maybe you're not going to notice if people drop out. If you're in a room where I was in a room and there started like maybe 50 people came the first time, and then he explained what it was about and he started to get into the class. And this is back in 1998. Yeah. And it got smaller and smaller until there was maybe there were 15 of us, mostly women. And it became a very closed container, and you could feel the vibe in the room. So my point is, there is a very distinct energy that we have all been living with, and it's a field of energy, and that field contains Neptune and Pisces. And now that field is being disrupted by Neptune going into Aries, and we are no longer in this nice cozy experience of Neptune and Pisces. Now it's like the group is breaking up, the band is breaking up, everybody is getting shifted out of something, and we liked it the way it was. Or maybe it's better to say we're comfortable with the way it is and the way it was. And this is discomfort. So it's absolute extreme discomfort, and then where do we go from here? And that's the whole concept behind, what's going to happen to me when I die, and where do I go from here? Well, what is that? I can't imagine not being me and alive in this body and looking at things the way I see them. But that's the feeling we get by being in the whole notion of something that's contained and non-threatening, and then in our comfort zone too. So what I'm saying is, when something big like this happens, it's a collective response. And this is why people are saying to me, the world is crazy. And that's the way they've been talking to me all year. And it's when I point the finger back at this, I've seen it happen when Pluto left Scorpio into Sagittarius, when Pluto left Sagittarius into Capricorn, for sure. I mean, I was keenly aware of it as the financial crisis happened. And then, of course, when Pluto left Capricorn and went into Aquarius, and then, when Neptune left Aquarius and went to Pisces, and now Neptune and this is big because it's the end of the zodiac. So we're all feeling the end of something, and we don't want to feel the end of something because it means change, and it's uncomfortable for us to change. And the thing is about change, though, is when we change, we heal. So we have to embrace the change and not stay stuck in yesteryear. We have to embrace everything and set intention for a new path and a new life. And that's what happens when we've got, this whole Neptune dynamic happening. Now, Neptune is a foggy planet. It's not Saturn, it's not that Saturnine focus. It's ethereal. And so we have to put our worries, our strife, our concerns in the hands of something greater than ourselves, in the hands of the universe, in the hands of whatever you believe in. If you believe in nothing, then put it in the void. But you have to see that there's something greater than you here, and that's where our worries, our strifes, our prayers need to go, and our release and our surrender. So this is really important to pay attention to, okay? And really important to embrace as we move forward in this year, in this end of this year, and into this new cycle. The other reason Wednesday the 10th is important is because it is the final of 3 oppositions between Mercury and the planet Uranus. And remember, back a bunch of weeks ago, before Mercury went retrograde, Mercury was in early Sagittarius, Uranus was in Gemini. They opposed one another, and then Uranus went retrograde, Mercury went retrograde, and they met again in opposition in Mercury in Scorpio, Uranus in Taurus. Now, this is very unusual, and this doesn't happen. This isn't like where both planets go retrograde and both planets meet up again. This is a rare thing. This is not a common practice. So now again, they're meeting Scorpio, Taurus, as Mercury is direct. So Mercury is direct. And then the next day, the 11th, Mercury goes into Sagittarius at 5:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, they are meeting on Thursday. The opposition occurs at 2:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And so this is the final one. And I find it interesting that there's two big events on Wednesday, and then Mercury changes signs. So, Mercury, if you'll recall a few weeks back, I talked about Mercury's dynamic with the outer planets as it was making this move. And so it was opposing Uranus, and then it's going to make a trine to Neptune. So there's this hard aspect with Uranus, and it's talking to Uranus for the third time. And Mercury-Uranus is a high energy. And then it trines Neptune, and that's a very soft energy. It's a trine. It's a flowing aspect. It's water sign to water sign. But this is something else. This is, Mercury being the planet of communication has a lot to say to Uranus, which is high-level communication and sort of a technological bent to Mercury. So this is a dynamic. It's also a bit frenzied. This is a dynamic that is high energy, high frequency, and it can be very chaotic. And then there's Mercury trine Neptune, which is, like I said, lovely, flowing, inspiring, creative, as Mercury then moves into Sagittarius after that. And then 2 days later, on Saturday the 13th, Mercury sextiles Pluto. So it's talking to all the outer planets. The hardest aspect is with Uranus, and then the smooth flowing aspects are with Neptune and Pluto, and they are having a reasonable conversation. But this is the third time everybody's having a conversation with Mercury, all three outer planets, which means there's high level energy and high level thought and thinking outside the box, and our brains are changing. Now, I have something to say about this, and I think this thread is what's really happening. It has been chaotic. It has been high energy. It has been nonstop. It's just out of control. And I thought, once Saturn and Mercury went direct last weekend, and that was a hell of a weekend, I thought that things were going to start calming down, and they're not. I have to take a breath. They're not calming down. And I feel that it's got to be this Mercury, because I noticed this right around the time that Mercury was opposing Uranus at the first time, and then eventually, hello, Gata Marina, eventually, went retrograde. And I think the retrograde was particularly complicated, and it was just from the get-go, like running and running. And it's still that way. Everybody I talk to is still overwhelmed. I have friends who are like setting up like little restaurants. They're overwhelmed. I have friends, with some family crisis, overwhelmed. I've been overwhelmed with my own work, my own things. It's just been too much. I planned Thanksgiving for 20 people. It was a lot of energy. And then I went away right away the next morning, which I never do. I'm usually home to unwind the day after Thanksgiving, wash all the tablecloths, sort out the house. I just finished getting things back to normal after Thanksgiving yesterday. The table is off the patio. Both tables that I borrowed were off the patio. People finally could come and like take them away. I could put my hammock back up. I'm serious. It has been running. And everyone I talk to has been running. And I think it's the stations, and I think it's the Mercury. And Mercury meeting with Uranus 3 times, I think it's like hanging in the air, not getting far away enough to not be connected to Uranus. And then it goes into Sag, and then it's in a fire sign, which sounds like a lot of energy, right? So as I watch everybody, I don't want to say we're all in survival mode, but we're stepping it up. We're stepping it up to the next level, and I'm maintaining my meditation practice. There is no way I'm not dropping out going, oh, it's too crazy right now. No way. That is what's keeping me sane. So I highly recommend a meditation practice, as I always say. I always throw that in there, right? And so what I realized, so there's this mentor I work with in groups, Melanie Ann Layer, and I've mentioned her before here. She's Canadian. She's a Sagittarius with a lot of Scorpio. She is using this energy in a way like that's stellar. She's starting new classes. She's starting new programs. She's going live at like 10 o'clock at night. She's got this energy is fueling her to go out and create and make something happen. She's got a team of people behind her, but the fact is, this is all sort of being transmitted and channeled through her field. This is coming through. She's using this energy, high level frequency, to go out into the world and work with people and connect with people and create big stuff. And I just sit here in awe watching her saying, she's just like, she's on fire right now. She's on fire. And it's so interesting to watch this. And I'm very impressed by this because she's able to take this energy and turn it into something that's not chaotic. I don't know how her team feels, but it's not chaotic when she's presenting it. She's really just bringing in new, like she's just transmitting information. She's, I think, as we say, downloads. She gets these downloads of information and she is putting it out there to everyone, and it's just flowing from her. So I think that's fabulous, and I aspire to be that eloquent during times of chaos and use the energy so wisely, right? So this has been Gata Marina. What's going on, baby? This has been an interesting thing to watch. It's been a very interesting experience to see people like in the chaos and then Melanie just being stellar. So as we work through this chaos, and I'm hoping that it's going to let up once Mercury goes into Sag and gets out of its shadow. And that happens around the 17th, the 16th, 17th of December. So we got a little while yet. And then, okay, so now we have Mars tomorrow in Sag squaring Saturn in Pisces. And Mars likes being in Sag. Squaring Saturn, okay, this is telling us to take it one step at a time, to not jump in, because Mars in Sag likes to jump in, and just stay focused, okay? This is important. This is an interesting week for Mars because Mars is going to square Saturn and then square Neptune on Sunday the 14th, next time I do this podcast. So this is something interesting because Mars is touching in a challenging relationship the two planets that are getting ready to go into his sign, Mars's sign. And so he's having a conversation with Saturn. And Saturn's always difficult. We feel like we're being stopped. We feel like we're being pushed back. We're being told not to assert ourselves. We are, being told no. And so take it easy. Take it easy this week. Put the brakes on. Maybe it's good in all the chaos to have a Mars-Saturn to really allow ourselves to put the brakes on and stop for a bit. And that's at 7:16 p.m. Eastern Time. I think that it's important, if you can get a moment to yourself to put the brakes on this week, I suggest that that's a good thing. It is very intense right now. And I think part of it is Saturn and Neptune getting ready to leave where they are and go forward and be in a brand new sign, a brand new zodiac. And I think that everything is again, it goes back to the whole death anxiety thing. We're comfortable like this. We want to stay like this. And it's really something that we have to embrace the change. And then Mars is going to square Neptune Sunday the 14th, and then it's going to go into Capricorn in the wee hours. If you're in the Pacific time zone, 11:34 p.m., but then in the Eastern time zone, early Monday. And of course, if you're in Europe, it will be Monday, maybe in the afternoon or the morning when you're having breakfast. Mars will go into Capricorn, but that's the following week. And Mars likes Capricorn. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. It really does enjoy being in that earth sign, which is interesting. And so when we have this week is really, a finishing up of Mercury in Scorpio. It's moving on. A finishing up of Mercury's relationship with Uranus and the other outer planets, but they were always smooth. Neptune and Pluto was very smooth. Mercury working its way through the end of Scorpio and moving forward and getting out of its shadow next week. And of course, Neptune going direct. So all of this is forward motion. Uranus is the only straggler, not going to go direct till February. We're not worried about that. We are making progress, and that's what we have to focus on, the progress. It's time to adopt some new things and move forward. If you are feeling like you're not making progress, you probably are and you just don't see it. Okay, that's how I want to explain it, because this year has been such a holding pattern for so many people, for all of us. I really have to say that next year is the big shift forward. And so we've felt held back this year. We have felt held back, and we felt like we can't get the car started. We can't get something new happening. We can't get our projects off the ground. We can't make up our mind what the next step in our life is. So it's been hard. And it's like I said last year, it was going to be this in-between year where we have to have patience and just keep moving forward, even though we don't feel like we are, even though we feel like things are just backwards. But you have to trust. You have to trust. It's really important to trust your process, your own intuition, and this labyrinth we have been through in this year. It's coming to an end, guys. The Neptune is going direct, and the year is ending. Okay, this is where we start to take the steps towards next year and the next step of our life that we've been anticipating. It's gonna feel different, I promise. So if this week feels a little wonky in the middle of the week, just breathe through it, meditate through it, get through it, keep your head down and work if that grounds you. Because I think this week we do need quite a bit of grounding. I do. Because of Neptune changing signs and Mercury and Uranus. So that's going to be this peak event in the middle of the week. And we're feeling it already. We are definitely feeling it already. In the meantime, if you want to have a session with me, I would highly recommend it, because I can help you with what's going on, what's coming up for the new year. And there's a lot coming. And I've been talking a lot about that 0 Aries point, and it lands somewhere in your chart, and that's a place of the big turning point. So where does it land for you? If you want to have a session with me, we can go into depth about that, and you just do that by clicking book online on my website, thegoldenastrologer.com. You can contact me through email, deb@debmcbride.com, info@thegoldenastrologer.com, and you'll see me on Instagram. I promise I'll be more active this week. I'll try. And I'm available for Reiki if you need a real cleansing of this. That's a cleansing of all these energies. Fantastic. Let's do it. The same place. You can book online with me. And of course, I'm available for expansion mentoring, which is a great thing to sign up for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, because then we can work together through these transitions and changes. There's going to be a lot of shaking out of the new positions. We still have a little ways to go, especially with Uranus, which won't change signs till the end of April. So we're really in a position to do some good mentoring work with people. I've been doing good mentoring work with people, so I highly recommend that. And I wish you a beautiful week, a creative week, a peaceful, grounded week. And if you need me, reach out. You know where to find me. Gratitude to everyone for listening. Love to everyone. Great gratitude, and have a beautiful week. And I'll see you on the internet. Thank you for listening.